Is Star Wars on life support? Find out tonight on a brand new episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started, a life is a dream.
Like a pinch to the underside of your nutsack, we're back.
We're back, baby.
It's been a fucking hot minute, but here we are.
Well, not really. Like the last episode was a hot minute.
It's been a hot minute since we've done an episode of the show. Yes, we have a very good interview out there with the delightful director Nick Roth, who directed a B horror movie called Hanky Panky. Make sure to check that out on the channel right now. Some good stuff there, but otherwise, as far as an Absolute Geek Podcast episode goes, it's been a while. So much has happened.
That is true. It's crazy how inconsistent we've gotten. And it's no one's fault. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's just collective.
That's what happens
fault.
when you don't do it live anymore. You get lazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Might have to go back to being live.
But hey, man, like it's been kind of nice not getting random Russian bots.
No way. I miss my Russian bots.
You would.
We're botting it up, but
you love those Russian sleuths.
Life has been crazy. I don't think we've done an episode of this show since I almost died.
Yeah, that's true. You had a pretty wild couple months there.
Yeah. From the passing of my wife's stepdad to almost dying within a matter of weeks of each other. It's a pretty sweet time. So I spent the last 6 weeks recovering, and I'm back. I mean, if you watch SNS, I've been on SNS, but Lance and I just have not been able to cross-pollinate our schedules.
We have not been able to consummate your return.
Yeah. Well, says the guy who's slouching in his chair and looks like someone dropped their nutsack on the ground.
Oh, dude, my nuts are so heavy.
Yeah.
It just rocks me back.
You wish, little man.
I did. My head looks really small.
It does.
When
it looks like a little testicle.
Back like this. I forgot my hat, dude. I usually always wear my hat.
Your chin looks like the underside of your nuts with little pubes on it.
Dude, guess what? I am down.
I don't even want to hear guess what after that lead in. Talking about how your head looks like a nutsack, and then you're like, dude, guess what?
Guess what, dude? The operation is scheduled.
Yeah.
No, dude. I'm down 32 pounds, bro.
Nice, congrats.
Thanks, man.
Now we're a weight loss show. We have officially hit fucking middle age. We talk about
kids,
surgeries, dying.
Bills.
We've come a long way from talking about bat wangs and shit like that. Now we're talking
still one of my favorite episodes, the Batwing episode.
Talking about weight loss, and
it wasn't even Batwing. It was
dying.
Bat root.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard root used in that context.
Well, it's because you lived a sheltered life. I don't wonder.
I did not live a sheltered life.
Your wife beats you, and you're not allowed out of the house.
Just get your ass back in here, boy.
Yep. She said, "You gotta spend your time being on top of me to make more kids." And
no,
5 kids later, she's like, "All right, you're finally released of your duties."
That ship has sailed, my friend. The snippety snip.
Yeah, everyone's like, "You're finally released of your duties." But we've had a lot of good stuff happen while we were gone. X-Men 97, that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, man, it raises questions for me, because I don't care if that guy didn't rape anybody, sexually assault anybody, didn't do anything like seriously nefarious. If all he did was have an OnlyFans video that showed his feet or something like that, I don't know what the story is.
I might do that because inflation's high and times are tough. I might start selling feet pics.
If that's the reason that they parted ways, It's because Disney didn't want the optics of somebody with an OnlyFans page. And I could be totally wrong. But that's what I understood. That guy made a hell of a show. Bo DeMeo, I think his name is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He made a hell of a show. Apparently, his influence is all in season 2. Pretty much used his entire plan. But dude, like, he knocked it out of the park. And at a time when the MCU is in desperate need of quality hits, right? X-Men 97 was a breath of fresh air. And they took some big swings, dude, in that show. And spoiler alert.
Did they though?
Well, spoiler alert, just to name a couple. The killing Gambit off, a fan favorite, and not having him. What'd they kill him in episode 4?
No.
Well, there's only 8 episodes.
5 or 6.
I say 4 and you say 5, and you're like, no.
Maybe. He's gonna come. Everyone knows he's gonna come back.
I know, but half the season he wasn't in it.
He's gonna come back as one of the disciples of Apocalypse.
Oh, I know. They teased that at the end, but all I'm saying is half the season he wasn't in it. That's a big swing. Removing. That's like just top of my head. Big Bang Theory. Half the season they don't have Sheldon in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Wolverine, and maybe that's just me. Wolverine and Gambit were my favorite characters of the original show. Were Wolverine and Gambit. Yeah, I don't think anybody else fits that. And so when they killed him off, it was like, I was like, holy shit, they are taking huge swings.
I don't know if I would call it huge swings. It's good. It's a good piece of nostalgia. I don't know if I'd sit here and consciously or comfortably say that, like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever since sliced bread. It was good. I am super stoked for season 2, but I don't know. I think my problem with it is like the pacing of, they fell in this trope where you got like one really strong episode, like the attack on Genosha was like a really strong episode, and then
they follow
up with this boring ass Jubilee episode, and then you get another really strong episode, and you get this boring ass Rogue and Forge episode. It's like
Storm and Forge,
not Rogue, but Storm and Forge. It's like, okay, I get what you're doing, but it was just like you're cooking, and then it was almost like traffic, man. You're like, you're going, and then stop. And you're going, and you're stop.
Well, that's been my complaint when it comes to Disney Plus shows for a while now, is like Boba Fett, Mandalorian, all these shows. Like, we're going to talk about it today with the Acolyte. It's like they hit a really strong point and then it just followed up with a stinker. And I don't know if it's to fill some episode count or what it is, but if you're going to make something 8 episodes, 6, 8, 10 episodes, it should feel like a movie, right? It should have an opening act, a middle, like, the first 2-3 episodes are like the opening, setting the stage. You hit your big stride with the next 3, and then you have your conclusion, right? It should feel like one long ass movie that if somebody wanted to sit down and watch all 8 episodes at once, that's something Stranger Things does really well, in my opinion, is from point A of one season, point A to point B, there's this, incline and drop off. Sometimes it's all incline, and that's fine too. But what you can't have are these hills and valleys, right? Incline, drop off, incline, drop off, incline, drop off in one season, because you run the risk of losing people.
Yeah.
And that's what most of the Star Wars shows have been. I think, for the exception of maybe The Mandalorian.
It was good. Like I said, it was good. I liked it. For what it is, it made me super excited to finally get the mutants in the MCU.
Well, MCU adjacent, I guess you could say, right?
Well, I mean, I want the live action stuff. I'm not talking about cartoons, but
they're not involved with the Thanos stuff. Like they're not involved with that. What is it? They're on. So the MCU's Earth 616. Is that right?
yeah,
It's the main storyline.
yeah.
You have Loki that falls on a different timeline, and then this falls on a different timeline, right?
Well, Loki kind of takes place during all the timelines, if you really think about it.
Yeah, but he's a splinter of a different timeline. That Loki.
Loki physically, you're
Right.
talking. Yes.
Yeah,
You're talking about like where the TV show is taking place.
Yeah, he's kind of in a no man's land, right? In the TV show. But that Loki does not follow the trajectory of the Loki that we knew from the films, right? Because the Loki that we knew from the films is killed by Thanos,
Right.
does all this stuff. That Loki is from the point of the Tesseract getting arrested after the first Avengers movie, and that's a different Loki than what we knew.
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying is it just it sidelines the main storyline, which I believe anything that happens in X-Men 97 is not going to have an impact to this multiverse saga. Like there's going to be a different X-Men team. Now, what I would like is if when they cast the live action X-Men to kind of take the animated series as kind of inspiration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think that is everybody's perfect perception of what X-Men is. I mean, there's been many iterations of Wolverine, many iterations of Storm and Beast and all that stuff, but when people think of like the prototypical X-Men, it's that animated series.
Yeah.
As far as what Magneto's suit and what they change it for this 97, but
I think
the wheelchair.
I think everyone's got to get over that though. Like,
oh, I agree.
You got to get over the trope that 97 is this all encompassing greatest thing ever. Like, it's not going to be, to me, it doesn't need to be 97. It needs to be its own thing separate from that.
Oh, I agree. And I don't think that's what I was saying. All I was saying was when they make their casting choices to like use that as kind of inspiration is all I was saying.
But that's what I'm saying is I don't think they should. I think they need to just go completely on their own, different direction. Fresh. Stay away from 97. Let X-Men 97 do its thing while you do yours and be something of its own, completely fresh and original. Don't try to copy. Don't try to. It just seems like that's kind of what Marvel's in trouble with right now. And it's like they're trying to copy, and instead of where they were once fresh, they're now just in a lot of ways a bad ripoff of other things. And so
give me an example of that, because I don't know if I share that view.
What, that they're a bad ripoff of other things?
Yeah, well, maybe if you give me a couple examples.
Have you seen Madam Web?
Oh, well, that's Sony.
Well, okay. So have you seen Thor Love and Thunder?
Yeah, and that's awful. Yeah,
have
but
you seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness?
But what is that? Well, Doctor Strange, I could see the argument, right? Because there's a reason they got Sam Raimi to direct that, right? It's very much in that Evil Dead.
But it's not. It's supposed to be, but it's not.
Right, but that's what they were going for. So I see the knockoff argument on that aspect. What is Thor Love and Thunder knocking
Thor
off?
Love and Thunder is just pretty much a direct knockoff of Ragnarok. And the only difference is that he gets a kid at the end of it.
Oh, so you're saying ripping off their prior movies, not other properties. Like, okay. I can see that. They're trying to recreate the magic of something.
Right. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, so to speak, or recreate the magic of the movie they had before, and now it just they've used the same jokes and the same like stories, and it's the same plot points that nobody cares anymore. They're not taking their care. They're literally hiring people that are out here like, well, so when we got this, we really didn't know anything about this product, but we're gonna write a script and put a movie out and direct it. So
well, that was Madam Web, and
we don't. No, it's happening a lot. It happens with Star Wars. There's a bunch of Star Wars. Well, we don't know anything about Star Wars or the lineage or history of Star Wars and the plot points of Star Wars, but we're gonna make a Star Wars show.
Or we
don't know anything about Marvel.
The director blatantly comes out for Acolyte and says, "Oh, my whole job here is to make Star Wars fans uncomfortable."
We don't know anything. We were told not to read the comic books or not to approach things.
I can see
of source material. We were gonna do a fresh take on this.
I could see your argument there. When you originally said it, I thought you were saying like Endgame could have easily turned into a Back to the Future ripoff, right?
Yes.
And they made it. They kind of changed the mechanics of it and made it different enough to where I think Endgame stands apart from Back to the Future.
Here's where Marvel goes wrong. Time travel. I love Endgame. I love Infinity War. Everything post Endgame is where and we've said it multiple times. People are probably sick of hearing it. That's where Marvel goes wrong. When we started branching off into these multiple dimensions and multiple universes, I remember years ago when they were talking about this being like, Marvel has a war room set up where they have whiteboards everywhere and they have somebody whose specific job it is to keep track of the main timeline and what's happening, because we're going multi-universe. That's where Marvel fucking died, because Marvel lost its way. Whoever's keeping track isn't doing a great job. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they've been. They have no direction. They don't know what they're trying to accomplish. When they had Endgame, what made Marvel great for those 10 years is that they had a beginning, a middle, and an end planned. They knew where they were starting, and their end game was Endgame, to be the all-out war to get Thanos there, and the all-out war against Thanos. What is our end game?
I agree with you. I feel like they lack a North Star a little bit.
Absolutely.
I feel like they have 3 points that they're going to, and then once they hit those 3 points, they're going to try to converge them. And I feel like it's a little convoluted. I feel like it lacks very little definition. But Bob Iger said something that I completely agree with. And not to get in the political aspect of it, but they stopped focusing on storytelling and plot as much as they started focusing more on fan service and more on
inclusion,
which is fine. I believe in inclusion, but I think that's a fine line that you have to toe, right? Inclusion to not seem pandering is where my line is, right? And like Shang-Chi is a awesome definition of how inclusion works, in my opinion. You may not like that movie, and that's fine, but I like that movie.
I like Shang-Chi.
I think it's Jay that didn't like it. But so Bob Iger came out and said, we need to get to the point where we're back to focusing on story and let inclusion kind of fall itself into story, not let inclusion write the narrative and then have storytelling fall into inclusion, right? What is your North Star? What I would have done if I was Kevin Feige is I would have still attacked that multiversal aspect, but I would have had 1 or 2 shows show what's happening adjacently, to where kind of like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type idea, where anything that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did not affect the primary storyline. So you could have Loki be one of those engines, right? To look at all this stuff that happens in the multiverse, and What If being another one of those engines that looks at that. but then just have one path that you're following to get to whatever it was, Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars or whatever, right? But this 3 branches, the celestial, the galactic, and the street level, and then trying to envelop that into
the celestial, which they haven't even touched on since
Eternals.
Just the giant being chilling in the middle of the ocean that nobody chooses to acknowledge.
That's been my biggest issue too, is that you've gotten to the point where you have these grand scale things happening, right? Like the Eternals. Where the fuck is everybody else to help? Like, there's a giant being coming out of the ocean or iceberg or whatever it is. Can't remember. And
it's dead now.
Yeah, it's dead now. But Hulk doesn't show up to fucking help.
He's off world.
Iron Man was dead at that point, but Thor can't blast it. Nick Fury not once says, "Oh shit, maybe I should call some reinforcements." Captain Marvel was around.
We don't know what happens.
Well, it sounds like they're abandoning.
That's all supposedly playing out in Captain America Stand and Deliver, or whatever it's called now, New World Order, or
NWO.
Yeah, I don't think it's New World Order anymore. I can't remember. Brave New World. There you go. I personally like Captain America Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
But here, okay, you just brought up a great point for me though, of repetitiveness.
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden in every Marvel property do we have to go to these characters' ancient history? Why do we have to see Kamala Khan's ancestors? Why do we have to see Echo's ancestors? Why do we have to see the past of Mark Spector in Moon Knight? We didn't get to see the background on the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I mean, I guess we did a little bit when you see the Stark rocket go into their living room, but we didn't get to see how they got their powers. We didn't get to see the tortures they went through as kids. We didn't get to see really any of that. Yeah, we got to see Captain America's because it's kind of pivotal to his story. We didn't get to see Spider-Man stuff. You know,
they did that deliberately because we'd seen it 2 other times.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why can't we just meet these characters where they're at and go from that point in their culture, like have their culture still absolutely be a massive part of who they are. But we don't have to go back and be like, oh, well, we have this ancestral connection to this, or my grandmother's connected to this bracelet, or, you know, to me, to have like every Disney Plus show do that, except for, I guess, She-Hulk, but it's just repetitive writing. And I guess at the time it was before the writer's strike, where all the writing was crap. And I don't know. I just hope, I don't want to harp on it too much, because I feel like we harp on Marvel so much on this show.
Well, I was going to bring up that exact point that you just brought up with the Acolyte with episode 3. And we'll get more into that when we talk about that. But I feel that your gripe that you just expressed there with Marvel is exactly my gripe with the Acolyte. Devoting an entire episode to this backstory that could have been accurately explained in like less than 15 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe.
Dude, less than that. It could have been told in flashbacks.
Yeah.
From the character through the episode as they're progressing the story. Let's just get into it now. Screw it. Like,
well, yeah. So a lot of the arguments that we've expressed with Marvel,
and I could use even my argument about X-Men 97 to justify this conversation.
Yeah,
about how you have 2 really strong episodes and then 1 lame duck.
That's what I was referring to when we were talking about that. Is the exact problems that are happening at Marvel seem to be happening with Lucasfilm or Star Wars, right?
Because I mean, it's all technically Disney. They're all technically one entity, but
this episode, the first 2 episodes, I was like, that scene where he's fighting May, Soul is fighting May. Is it May?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. No.
Like he's not letting her touch him at all. He's just blocking her shots.
Yes, that's May.
Was fucking awesome. Like that whole scene was awesome with the dude watching and him stopping the knives in midair. Fucking cool, dude. And I was like, oh, this show, I may actually like this show because I was already hooked. You know, by the end of episode 1, I was like, oh, this is a good show. I like this.
Well,
Episode
yeah, it's
2, I'm
set in
like,
a
oh
different
yeah,
time, different era, an
no
era before
Skywalker bullshit.
era before the dark side. It's set in the, you know, High Republic era where the Jedi are bountiful and plentiful, and their fighting style is more defense than it is offensive, and
They don't even know
stuff.
how to fully explain the Force.
Right.
There's still like sections of cultures there that are using different terminology when it comes to the Force, right? And talking about pulling threads, and I noticed that it was like, oh, the Force.
That's not the
in
first time they've used that reference as for pulling threads, though.
Well, I'm sure, but it just seemed like
to explain the Force anyway.
Yeah, it just seemed like they had like the witches had a different reverence for what the Force actually is compared to the Jedis, right?
Well, and it in this time too, though, it's all about the different ways that these people use the Force, and that's kind of what I'm interested in Star Wars. Is like they're getting into this realm where you're seeing the different ways different groups of people use the Force. It's not just your typical wielding like a Jedi or Sith would. You're seeing the witches. You're seeing, just like I said again, how these people wield and use the Force to their advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah, and so I like that aspect of just seeing the different belief systems, right? Because you could think of almost like the Force as like a hyperbole for God, right? There's all these different religions that see God in a different way, right? And they pray to God differently, and this God may be different than this God, but in actuality, like if you believe in a God, there's some higher entity, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the Force is. And then you have these cultures that that view the Force in a different reference or what it actually is and how to wield it. And you know, the Jedi have this reverence to it that it can be used as a form of finding peace and balancing the universe, right? And then the witches use it as this, it's a form of defense and you know, keeping our ancestors proud and all this other stuff, right? So there's all these different
Use it
viewpoints,
to
create babies and stuff. There's all these different viewpoints on it, and that was cool because for the longest time, and my biggest issue with Star Wars, and you know I'm not a huge fan of Star Wars. I do like some of it. But my biggest issue with Star Wars is everything just bled down into Skywalker, 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 Darth Vader, Skywalker. You know, every show had to have some cameo from Darth Vader, some cameo from Obi-Wan, or some cameo from this person or this person. This show can go. That's why Andor's so great, because Andor didn't rely on all these stupid cameos, right? Andor is a story about Andor.
Still very much.
It's in the Skywalker.
It's still very much attached to the Skywalker, seeing how his whole purpose, the whole reason you're getting that show is to see what he was doing before they come up to go steal the Death Star plans.
Right, but a Skywalker's not a main character, and there's no one that's Skywalker adjacent like Rey, which you could classify as a Skywalker. That's the main character. Andor is this dude that did this thing, and now it's just showing up until that. So I don't know. I just feel like if because that's only going to go 2 seasons, right? There's no expectations of Darth Vader to appear or any of this shit. Like I'd be perfectly fine if they don't show any of that stuff. The Mandalorian, I feel, was cheapened by the Luke Skywalker cameo. Do you agree with that?
No.
Like I didn't get
sense for the timeline, because he would be the only Jedi trying to restore the Jedi Order, so it makes sense that he's there. Like as much as you want to like say, oh, I wanted to get away from the Skywalkers because I'm one of those people. That makes sense because he fits that time. It's
But Ahsoka was there.
Mandalorian is set after, but Ahsoka's not part of the Jedi Order anymore. Ahsoka was kicked out of the Jedi Order or left the Jedi Order at that point.
Oh, see,
And
this is where your knowledge runs deeper than mine.
Yeah, she was no longer. She did that in Clone Wars. Like she was no longer,
which I never watched,
part of the Jedi Order. Or maybe it was Rebels, one of the other, but she's no longer part of the Jedi Order. So that's why she's not gonna. That's why she doesn't want to train Grogu, because she's not part of the Order, and where Luke Skywalker is, and he's gonna put together the Jedi Order. So that's why it makes sense that he shows up at the end of Mandalorian.
Well, my issue with it is what happened after the fact, right? So they had this big reveal of Luke Skywalker, which I didn't feel I needed, but a lot of people got geeked over it. Then a few episodes later, Grogu leaves Luke to go back to Mando, and it's like that whole thing didn't really need to happen.
Well, it does though, because it's Grogu. He's force sensitive, so of course Luke's gonna want to try to get him in the Jedi Order, but that's Grogu making his decision to not join the Order and become Mandalorian versus becoming a Jedi. So it did kind of need to play out, because you need to see that struggle within him of, do I answer my call and go to the Order and become a Jedi, or do I go follow my heart and become Mandalorian and live by the code of the Mandalorians? So Grogu, that all makes sense.
I guess it makes sense now that you're putting into that aspect. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm just tired of the same, the same whatever 50 years being explored.
The same stories. Yes, I get that. And that's why I'm so excited about this show. Like the first 2 episodes, I was like, man, we're learning about some badass Jedis. We don't have any Skywalker connection here. Like the very first episode where May is hunting, what's her
Carrie Ann Moss. I don't know, Iridel or
what's her
but it's Trinity.
Indara.
That's what it is.
And she's using the Force to like throw throwing knives. We've never seen that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about, Star Wars can't. If you're a Star Wars fan, why do you even care about canon anymore? Because they've thrown canon out to the wayside, and
well, they're selective over what canon applies anyways. They say, okay, none of the books apply now that we own Star Wars. And then they come out with that thing and they're like, oh, but this book applies.
Essentially what they've done, though, is they've taken Star Wars and made it for everyone, but this version of Star Wars just may not be for you. But I like that, you get the issues where it's like, oh, the Jedi, oh, well, the lightsaber is an elegant weapon that's only to be used for defense, and you think only Force wielders can use it. Then all of a sudden, some shopkeeper's like, check this out, bro. I got drunk and found this. And lights up a lightsaber, or whatever. But yeah, the Acolyte was cool because you're kind of getting to see a lot more. They are choosing to be more of Force wielder. You don't see them turning to their lightsaber for everything. Like you're watching these, like you were saying, when May attacks a Master Soul, he's using the Force to deflect her and everything, and like he doesn't use his lightsaber unless it's absolutely necessary.
Well, there's a line in the first scene with May and what's her name? Trinity. That's all I'll know her as. Trinity May. From Matrix.
Indara?
Indara, yeah. You knew that was Trinity, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That she said, May says something like, I thought Jedi only pull out their weapon with the intention to kill.
Yeah.
So she puts her lights. She doesn't pick up her lightsaber, right? I like that because it kind of prefaces obviously she's a friend of Soul, so it kind of prefaces this attitude of, I'm only going to pull this out when I feel severely threatened and I need to defend myself and take down my enemy, right? Soul has the potential to become one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise, just by the compassion that he shows to Oshi. Is it Oshi? I just watched this 40 minutes ago. You think I remember these fucking names? The compassion and the fact that he is the empathy.
Osha. Her name's Osha.
Osha. What does his sister call her? It has like a pet name for her.
It might be Oshi. I don't remember.
The compassion and like Soul and the restraint, right? He is so purely on the side of the Jedi that there's this like restraint and composure and compassion with him that you don't even see in Luke, or actually it's probably closer to like Yoda, where Yoda was like pretty much composed a lot of the time, like he cracked jokes and things like that. But I like that you have this character that just doesn't seem to be, he seems to be like this just poster child for what Jedi is, right?
Yeah.
And yet he's being hunted. I don't know. I think he's bad. Plus, the actor,
he's not really being hunted. Like, well, he's being hunted in the sense of May's trying to kill him. Yes. Which let's talk about that. Like, that's so stupid. Like, explain to me how fire breaks out through a stone castle. First of all, like that to where it kills.
I think it was the electrical. The way I saw it was the electrical stuff.
Yeah, but it just kills everybody.
Well, there was an explosion,
and like this whole thing of like Soul being like, I was there when it happened and my watch may die. And then you get to that part in the thing and it's like,
you didn't.
You didn't. Yeah. You didn't watch her die because it was like the platform she was on fell apart in the middle. You didn't watch her die.
Yeah. You think that she's like in his arms.
And then
right when he references it, like he held her and she died.
Like he held her as she died. Exactly. She was like leather, like Darth Vader light. He held her as she died. That's not the case at all.
No, so, he was busy trying to hold the other one from,
and it's like
falling.
What is your purpose for wanting to kill all these Jedi because they showed up to
fire?
Because they showed up to give you a trial? Because they knew you were force sensitive and they gave you a test?
I think this is where I can kind of
hold on, just hold your thought.
Oh, go ahead.
The Jedi weren't even forcing them to become Jedi. They were still very much like, hey, you have a choice here. You can either come join us and be Jedi or keep doing your thing. And because she wanted to go, now her name's escaping me and I just said it.
Osha.
No, Osha. Because Osha decided.
I don't think it's Osha. That's the construction workers.
No, it is. It is Osha.
Is
because she decided that she wanted to go be a Jedi. Her sister's just like, you fucking Jedi. I'm going to kill all you now because you took my sister. You took my family. No, you did. You started the fire. Somehow you just bodies laying everywhere. From the time she started that fire to the time Osha gets out of there, which felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's just bodies everywhere.
The big climax was
so it's
less than 5 minutes.
What did she do? Did she just go around and just start murdering all these people? And then all of a sudden she's like, this is your fault. Our mom's dead.
Yeah. She holds them responsible for something that she did.
Right. It's just, and my problem is not with episode 3 is not child actors. Like, I'm all for child actors, but I just felt like the acting of those kids there wasn't a lot of emotion. There wasn't a lot of like struggle, but I just like she's responsible everything she's pissed off about. And like I was saying, I'm not against child actors. I just felt like the acting in this from the kids, the two girls, was very flat. It was very emotionless. There was no internal turmoil of whether or not you want to become a Jedi or not. It was just like everything
One
was
was
very
better
monotoned.
than the other.
Everything was very monotoned, and it's like, I want you to cry. And they're like, hold on, we need to spritz your face to shed tears. And it's like, all right, man, come on. But you're right. Back to your original point. We didn't need this episode. We didn't need this whole flashback episode. This episode could have been told while they were hunting May, flashbacks from both points of view. We didn't need to see this all play out through this whole episode.
Or make it to where, you know, she sees her in that car when she goes to take a shot of her. And as they're looking at each other, give us little snippets of it. Right. And drop little hints and clues every time they see each other that they're remembering something that happened. Right? The flashbacks, like you said.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing? And it's not these girls' faults, but it's more of the fault of the casting director. I didn't think the girls were as bad as, because I just watched this episode today and I heard so many people saying how awful they were. So I walked in thinking they were just going to be absolutely horrendous, a la Georgie from It. Horrendous. You know, that's what I was picturing in my head. They're not Georgie from It. They're supposed to be identical twins. Those two girls are not identical twins.
No, they're not.
The two adult actresses that play them are identical, and I think it's the same actress, right? Or is it two twins?
No, I think, yeah, it's the same actress playing the two sets of twins.
Okay, but the two girls are not identical, not in any way, and that was almost distracting for me.
But I mean, they are twins, but they're fraternal. They're not.
Right. They're supposed to be identical, which is why in the beginning of the show, everybody thinks that Oshi is killing these people when it's actually her sister, who everybody thought was dead, or some people didn't even know she existed, because they look the same. The guy at the apothecary says, "Oh my gosh, you really do look like her." When they're kids, they do not look alike. Cousins at best.
And the crazy part is that she's a good actress. She's been in a lot of movies. She was in the Hunger Games. She was in
one of those girls was?
No, the one who plays the grown-up Ocean May. She was in the Hunger Games. She was in she was Rue in Hunger Games, yep. And she plays Star Carter in the movie The Hate You Give. She's a very good actress. And she was also the voice of Spider-Bite in Across the Spider-Verse.
But
she's been in a lot of stuff.
She doesn't bother me.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, she's a good actress, and I just don't think they've given her time to shine yet. I think that's going to come as the series progresses. But the twins, man, I don't know.
If you can call them that.
I'm not gonna. Well, that's what they are. They're maybe not identical.
I believe you. I believe that you read that somewhere. The jury's still out whether they're actually twins.
Okay.
I'm making jokes. They just didn't look alike.
So far for me, though, the spotlight in episode 3 was Daphne Keene. Or sorry, episode 2 to 3 was Daphne Keene.
Yeah, which I heard her voice and was like, is that X-23?
Sure is, as the Padawan.
Yeah.
As Soul's new Padawan.
Yeah, yeah, she was cool. I still think Soul's my favorite character.
Yes, dude. Hands down, he is my favorite character.
And that actor. So first of all, there's a couple things with that actor. So that actor is
he's from Squid Games.
Right. I did not know he could speak English.
Yeah.
Did he learn English because every interview he gave for Squid Games, whether it was American or whatever, he was speaking in Korean. I've never seen him speak English. Did he learn English for this role?
I don't know. I'd have to ask him. You know, he's in my contacts. I'd have to reach out to him.
Which, if he did, fucking impressive, dude. Like, impressive. Because I was under the impression that nobody from that cast could speak English.
There's some actors though that can like
Learn it quickly.
speak it, but not understand it.
Yeah, but
Because
he is speaking it, and you can
and
see
understanding it. Yes.
Yeah, you can see that he's giving appropriate expression to what he's speaking. I was very impressed.
Yes,
because I was under the aspect of that he did not speak English. So,
but I don't know what his English is. I don't know if he once Squid Game became massive and he went and took English classes. I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and speculate on the man's
no, I was just saying
learn English, but
I was just saying that I had a preconceived.
I'm not saying you're saying anything wrong. I'm just saying like I don't know, and I don't want to.
I had a thought that he didn't. Then I watched a show and he does.
I don't want to be that asshole that's like. I want to be like that asshole, like some of these people out here, like he didn't learn English until this role, and
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying like, holy shit, dude, that's coming from a family of immigrants where my dad's first language was not English, and how many years it took him to learn English. And if this guy did it in that short amount of time, I'm just, especially from Korean to English, which is a lot harder than Spanish to English.
Yeah,
impressed. That's all I can say. And he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, well, it took me, 2 years to watch Squid Games. You kept like harassing me to watch Squid Games. And I was like, no, dude, I don't want to fucking watch this thing like and have to read the whole time. Like, so ignorant, because I love Pan's Labyrinth and Parasite, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I don't know. He's going to become my favorite character.
Let's talk about this too, about this show.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's talk about how kind of a bumbling idiots the Jedi are a little bit. Because like you have
say that again. You
kind of like bumbling idiots the Jedis are a little bit.
Yeah.
You have that badass fight scene against Indara and May at the beginning, right? Then May's going after Torben, and Torben's just sitting there meditating. And then May goes to her little sidekick or tech guy, and he's like, oh, you just got to give him something he doesn't have, or, put doubt in his mind. And then she starts talking to him, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Let me drink this poison.
Yeah.
Dude, you are a trained Jedi
who's been sitting there for 10 years.
Who is sitting there wielding the Force so well that you're meditating and she's giving you everything she's got and she ain't touching you. But because she questioned your ego or what a little bit, or I don't know if I want to say
your
ego
virtue.
Or virtue, whatever it is, a little bit, you're like, oh yes, I must drink this poison now.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Just come on, man. Like, you wouldn't see Qui-Gon do that. You wouldn't see fucking Obi-Wan do that. You wouldn't see Mace Windu do that. You wouldn't see Yoda do. Come on, man.
Which after you watch the third episode, so you watch the second episode, that happens, and you're thinking, holy shit, these guys must have done something awful.
Right.
Then you watch the third episode, I'm like, what the fuck did he actually do to make him hate himself that much that he would kill himself?
And so I'm wondering if maybe they are responsible for slaughtering all the family or whatever.
Oh, something's going to come out later that they didn't actually die from the blast.
Potentially, but I don't know, man. That's just my thought. I was super stoked and on board for episode 1 and 2, The Acolyte. Episode 3, like I started off saying with X-Men, badass episode, lame duck. And if you like the episode, that's great. You're entitled to your opinion.
I haven't seen one person that says they like
Star Wars. I've heard a couple people say it, but Star Wars is for everyone, but this Star Wars just might not be for you. And I'm here and invested because I like the characters enough. I think I like the characters so much so far that like this flashback gets a pass for me, as long as we don't have to go back there. And I feel like we're kind of done.
Well, unless what you said a minute ago comes true.
There's some big payoff coming down the line, which I see a lot of people saying that they think there is, but I don't know. I'm here for it. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Well,
It's
hey, let's
not.
just put it this way: it's better than anything Boba Fett came out with.
Yes, that's true. Any book of Boba
So
Fett
it's
stuff,
not it's not the worst piece of Star Wars imagery that we've received
right?
in the Disney era.
So
So
see what
yes,
happens.
in that aspect, it can get a pass for me because hell, there was even some episodes of Mandalorian. I'm like, snooze best,
Yeah,
you know. And all of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, I was kind of bored at times, you know. But I don't know. I'm here for it. I was not going to watch this show at all, and we decided to talk about it tonight. And so I was like, I guess I'll watch it. I'm glad I did.
I think Star Wars is gonna find its footing again, but
Hopefully, if they get the right people in charge, it seems to me that for whatever reason, like, is Dave Filoni in charge?
yeah, he's like running the show.
And what's
Favreau.
his Favreau? He's in charge as well. Like, they're both.
I don't know if he's in charge as much. I think Filoni carries a little bit more weight of the overarching story than I think Favreau carries more weight in Mandalorian as to where Filoni carries more overall weight. Don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong, but that's just the way I perceive it. But Star Wars is going to be Star Wars. It was Star Wars in the 70s and it's Star Wars now. So,
to be fair, it's very different than the
well,
original trilogy. Like, I feel like this new thing is something completely different from the original trilogy, like in tone and in writing and pacing. Like, it's different.
Yeah, I agree 100% from
they
its
fit
counterpart from what you saw on the screens in the 70s. Absolutely. From George Lucas's original interpretation of Star Wars, absolutely, it's different. But
well, even just George Lucas's writing style with the prequels, just more dialogue driven, and this Disney era seems to be like, how can we make this thing look cool? How can we make this thing fit into this narrative, but also give people an impressive, like, visual experience?
But when things
right?
like this, people are sheep. Look at how well praised A Force Awakens is. A Force Awakens is just like
Garbage.
it's like A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back had a love baby, and it was a rehash of it. So that's
J.J. Abrams' MO.
But still, like, it is what it is. But everyone was loving it because it was familiar. It's what you knew. They went back to that well with a different generation, different people, the same well.
Which, let me ask you. So I have a couple questions. You're obviously more versed in Star Wars than I am.
I would tread that area lightly.
Well, I know
enough to be
novice.
Dangerous in a conversation, but I wouldn't say I'm like
I'm not
Marco over on flip side who fucking eats, breathes, and sleeps Star Wars. But
oh yeah, you're not the first person I'd call.
Yeah,
you're one of the people I'd call, but you're not the first.
I'd call Max before you ever call me.
Yeah. I think you would call Max too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize Wookiees could be Jedis.
Yeah.
So that was new to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if they changed that for this. So you're saying that that's been documented before.
High Republic, they have Wookiee Jedi, yeah.
And then, so you brought up A Force Awakens.
Technically, any being can be a Jedi if they're Force sensitive.
I don't know why I remember some. Is it like, what are those? The little teddy bear looking things, Ewoks. Can they not be Jedis?
I think they can.
I thought there was some species that could not, that had no connection to the Force.
I got the best Star Wars fan available.
Google.
Yep.
And then the other thing, you brought up Force Awakens, and that there's, like, for some reason on Rotten Tomatoes,
Ewoks can be Jedis.
Interesting.
An identified Ewok Jedi was active in 4 ABY after the Battle of Yavin.
That's
After
something
the
I hear
New Republic
mixed.
was founded, it was born with the ability to use the Force, which is unusual for most Ewoks. This Ewok Jedi wore Jedi clothing and a blue bladed lightsaber and attack. So yeah, Ewoks can be Jedis.
Cool. See, that's where my knowledge is so limited when it comes to this franchise. But so Force Awakens, like Rotten Tomatoes has it like with a really good score, but then Last Jedi is hated on, and I really don't see any difference between the two.
There's a big tone difference.
No, but they both are on equal footing for me, like as far as quality.
Here's the, like, how do I put this? Force Awakens was a reintroduction to the franchise, meant for a generation who came after the original series and the prequels. And it was just kind of a reintroduction to that Star Wars story.
Right.
Last Jedi, you end that movie with, Last Jedi completely pissed on the character, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, completely pissed on the character of Luke Skywalker, because at one minute he's telling you that you need to respect the lightsaber, the tools of the Jedi and the Jedi Order, yada yada yada, and the next minute he's tossing it aside. Like, Luke Skywalker's motives make no sense in that movie.
Yeah, and I think Mark Hamill's come out and said that he didn't like what they did with his character in that movie either.
In J.J. Abrams originally, from what I remember, the original plan was he was going to direct all 3 movies. And he wrote a script for Last Jedi. And who directed Last Jedi?
Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson threw away that script and didn't use it, and was like, I'm going to rewrite this, and really wasn't up on the lore of Star Wars. And that's why when JJ came back for Rise of Skywalker, it was again a different tone.
Right, which you're going to have different tones if you have different people directing the movies. Like, that's just a given. We have that with the Marvel universe, right? And they try to keep some symmetry, right, between all their movies as far as tone is concerned. But you can definitely tell the difference between a Taika Waititi film over the Russo brothers, over Favreau. Like, you can see differences. Or even with Solo, which, as much dog shit as that movie was, has completely different tone than any other Star Wars that we've seen, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to get that. So I understand tone-wise. What I don't understand is Rian Johnson's a really good writer. Why did he... Because he did Knives Out, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's him. He's done a lot of good things that are kind of convoluted stories that are really well written. Why did he write something that has so many inconsistencies? Like, it just doesn't, it seems out of character. J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens is basically the same thing that he did with Star Trek. He just rehashed the old storylines. That's what Star Trek was.
Not to sidetrack you, but just to get back to what you're talking a little bit. So there are certain, like, creatures or races that can't be Jedi because they're immune to the Force. They're not sensitive to the Force. But go ahead and finish what you're saying.
Is there any that are, like, well-known races? The Hutts. Maybe that's what I was thinking. I thought it was some creature race, like not a humanoid race, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the Hutts are very, like, resistant to the Force.
So, but
according to Google, don't shoot me, Star Wars nerds.
Like, I think they both deserve the same level of, like, hate, is all I'm saying. All 3 of those movies. I never walked out of one of those movies and was like, that was fucking awesome.
I did. Force Awakens for me, I was like, that's badass. I can't wait for the next movie. And I got up at 3 fucking a.m. to go see that movie in the middle of the night. And I was like, fuck yeah, this Star Wars is back. And then
But did you, in
Last Jedi
hindsight,
came and I was like, fuck no, Star Wars is not back.
not to open old wounds, but you kind of were that way when it came to Captain Marvel. Like your initial was like, oh, this is great. And then after sitting on it, did you have the same experience with The Force Awakens?
No, I still like The Force Awakens.
You still like it?
Mhm.
Okay. I guess maybe because I'm not a big Star Wars fan, that I just walked out kind of unimpressed.
I'm not
with
either.
all of it.
I wouldn't call myself. I'm not Max.
But
Like,
you
Max
are
is the
into it
person
more
who-
than I don't own Star Wars memorabilia. I had to look around my room.
I don't think I own anything Star Wars either. If I'm
But,
being
like,
100% honest.
I didn't like it. Like the original trilogy.
The closest thing I own to Star Wars is Clerks.
But the original trilogy, they reissued it in the theaters. My aunt went and took me to see The Empire Strikes Back, and I remember thinking I think I was like 10 or 11, thinking this sucks. Like, I didn't like it. I've never liked it. It wasn't until Rogue One came out that I was like, oh, I kind of like this.
Oh, my
And I just think Rogue One's that great.
My dad sounds like kind of like your aunt. Like he was a huge Star Wars fan. He went and saw Star Wars in the theaters in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he refuses. He hasn't even watched the prequels. He refuses. He's like, why? I've already seen the Star Wars. I saw Star Wars in theaters in 1970s. I don't need to see it. I've already seen it. So he's very much at the mindset of what you're getting now is not his Star Wars, and he chooses to stay where his Star Wars is. And whenever that's on, he'll watch, New Hope, Empire Strike Back, and Return of the Jedi. But that's his Star Wars, and he refuses to refer to A New Hope as A New Hope. It's Star Wars. It's Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So,
I think that if he liked the original trilogy, he would love Rogue One, but he won't even give it a shot, huh?
No, he doesn't care. He's been there. He already knows what happens.
Yeah. So my dad moved to this country when he was 23, did not watch Star Wars ever. So I didn't grow up having this, like none of my family, because they're all from Argentina, none of my family, I think, ever watched Star Wars. Now, my aunt was born and raised here, so I think that's why she took us. So she probably did see a Star Wars in the theaters, but none of my family, aunts, uncles on my side, watch Star Wars. So I didn't grow up with it. So like, I didn't even realize Star Wars was this big thing until my aunt took me to see it. It just wasn't in my radius. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I met Max, who's obsessed with it, I'm like, why are you so obsessed with it? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, what I did grow up with and what my dad did have was Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. That's what I grew up on. Those are some of the first comic books I ever read, was Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, which is why I have such an affinity. I've had Spider-Man shit since I was an infant, so I guess that's why I love the MCU so much, is because it brings back that nostalgia for me. But Star Wars just doesn't do that. So it's a lot harder to impress me when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah. It's just not your cup of tea, man. It's not your bag, baby.
Which is funny because I love science fiction. Love it.
But
I don't consider
bag, baby.
I don't consider Star Wars like real science fiction. It's like fantasy. No, Star Trek to me is science fiction. Star Trek, like Twilight Zone, like that's science fiction for me because there's a science element to it. Star Wars is more like King Arthur's court, but in space. You know what I mean? The fantasy element. Like Lord of the Rings, but in space.
Yeah.
That's where. So like a lot of people are saying that Star Wars is sci-fi, and I'm like, just because it's in space doesn't mean it's
a
sci-fi.
sci-fi opera.
Yeah, I think sci-fi is used loosely on that. Star Trek was always rooted in some sort of like science element, you know. There was no mysticalness when it came to Star Trek. Max hates it when I say that because he thinks Star Wars is sci-fi, even though I think that is a pretty rational explanation of why I don't qualify it as sci-fi. I think it's rational. Do you think it's rational?
Yeah, I will concede your points.
You don't have to agree with me. Just is irrational is all I'm saying.
Yes,
he doesn't even
absolutely
believe it to be rational. He's
think
like,
it's
nope,
rational.
it's sci-fi. like Dune. I know that Star Wars was inspired by Dune, right? But Dune even feels more sci-fi to me because there's not well, I guess there is a mystical element because he's kind of like the Messiah, like has these powers and stuff, right?
I don't know. I've never seen Dune. I saw
Yes,
the
you
first
have.
Dune. I saw the remake and fucking fell asleep.
Dude, you'll like the second one. My brother-in-law did not really care for the first one. Saw the second one and said, "This is awesome."
Yeah,
Should
Kyle
give the
comes
second
to
one.
the same thing.
Yeah, I like them both. I
Yeah.
think Dune's better than Star Wars, but whatever. I also like that eventually Dune's going to end. There's not going to be, there doesn't need to be all this adjacent shit around Dune.
People thought about Hunger Games or Twilight, and that shit's still going. So
Twilight is?
Yeah, they're coming out with another series and
oh my gosh,
shit. And you'll eventually get prequel to Dune, and you'll get.
Well, there is a TV show I think coming out that's a prequel. So I guess you're right. I forgot about that until you just said that. I like Hunger Games, so I saw that new one. I enjoyed it.
But let's switch gears.
Yeah, let's talk about something that was really awesome. Really, really awesome. The Boys. Is that where you're going?
That's where I was going. Yes.
I thought your like record had skipped or something because you just didn't say anything. Dude, The Boys was fucking awesome. You're right.
Delivering a moment that for the first time it took him 4 seasons to gross me the fuck out.
I don't know. It was gross. I don't know if it was at the level of a Ant-Man adjacent character growing inside somebody's urethra.
It absolutely was, because that just popped the urethra. But this
no,
is
that exploded his whole body from his dick.
Yeah, but let's talk, dude. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes of The Boys, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert here. End the episode now. Thanks for coming. Make sure to like, subscribe on your way out. The dude multiplied. So he had his uncut root multiplied. And he was in a sauna jerking off while the rest of them were eating each other's asses in a very human centipede-like scene. To the point where the dude's like, you hear it multiple times through all of them, and then he turns away and his face is just fucking moist, and it's just like, oh god, it's just so disgusting. It's almost as disgusting. Like your fucking face froze in the best position when I was talking about that. You're like, like you were into it, bro.
The pink eye afterwards.
Yeah, the joke afterwards was funny, but just to be like, you got this dude jerking himself off and then eating his own ass multiple times. It's like, man, come on. But I would take watching that dude's.
So asses are not generally clean, right? We're gonna get into the sexual aspect of this.
I don't want
I'm hoping to really turn your stomach.
Please don't.
Asses are not generally clean, but when he splits, does the dirtiness go with him, or were all those clean assholes?
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. Obviously, that's not the case if he's got pink eye across the board.
That's true. You're right.
His
You
pink
just
eye
answered my
splits with him,
question.
so
I'm a germaphobe. You know this about me. Like I fucking can't do germs. So that's why that grossed me out. Like just so fucking nasty, dude.
but
To each
I mean
their own, but
this
I don't want
season
to
of
see
The
it.
Boys so far is definitely hitting on. It's got its fucking finger on the pulse of real world problems right now. The way our society is.
It what's the word I'm looking for? Embellishes it, right? Like they're having these rallies and stuff, and the shit they're saying, I'm like, because I got family members that are a little bit like right wing kooky, you know what I mean? And I
These are
think that
like deep state kooky.
these are
Though.
deep state, and it kind of makes the argument that all people on that side of the aisle are this way.
Right.
And I really think that it's not that big of a population that is that way. But yes, I agree. It kind of aligns with some stuff that's happening right now. I think it goes after both sides fairly. It attacks both sides of the aisle, just extremists on both sides.
But you have it picked up where the last season ended with Homelander killing that dude at the rally, and they framed him to be a pedophile and all this stuff. And so now you have the Starlighters versus the Homelanders, and they're feuding as Homelander decides he's going to use the Seven to overthrow democracy. And they make that same age-old remark that democracy doesn't work because people are idiots. And so Homelander is proceeding to use his newly formed Seven to overthrow democracy, to make himself the overall ruler, dictator, if you will. And the boys are set in motion to try and stop him. And you kind of got some new characters added in this season into the Seven. You got can't remember the new like super smart chick's name.
Sister Sage,
and then you got Firecracker, who's like the very like deep state fake news reporting podcaster that everybody loves. Like Alex, it's the female Alex Jones. Let's be honest, she's the female Alex
I
Jones.
kind of got that. Like, what would have made it better is if they made him some like fat white dude.
Yeah,
with like gray hair that thinks there's a, Carrie Lake-esque thinks there's a conspiracy under every rock.
Yeah.
That would have been, but yeah, it's very much Alex Jones. They did a better job of making someone look like Alex Jones than Spider-Man No Way Home did of making J. Jonah Jameson look like Alex Jones, because that's what they were trying to do over there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They announced that next season is going to be the last season, right?
Yeah, and I think after that it's going to mostly focus on Gen V, because I think we're getting into Gen V territory now.
Which I'm interested. We can talk about that in a little bit, but I'm interested to see what they do with that show with some recent shit that's happened to their cast. But they've upped the ante with every season. Like every beginning of the season just gets has this scene that just gets grosser and grosser and grosser and grosser. Like one season it was the exploding dick. The other one was the orgasm.
Eurogasm.
Yeah. Herogasm.
Eurogasm.
There was one scene where, what was the first one? The whale. I think it was a whale or something.
Well, I mean, the first season you had A-Train just obliterating Huey's girlfriend or whatever.
But they've upped the ante every season. I don't know. The first 3 episodes, like every episode had a scene that was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
The scene where the guy's, human centipeding, and then that whole they're just killing off this guy over and over again, which by the way, the killing the Prime thing made me think of Was it Futurama or Simpsons or something like Family Guy? They have a scene where the scientist like figures out how to grab himself from the past. They're at like a trade show and there's like 20 of them, and then one of them gets hit in the head and it turns out the prime, and then they all start dying. Fuck, it's a cartoon.
Probably Rick and Morty.
No, I never watched Rick and Morty.
Oh.
But so that scene when he goes, "Oh no, not the prime," immediately made me think of this other cartoon scene. I think it was Simpsons or something like that. I laughed my ass off because I thought it was so funny. There's been several moments that I've gasped and laughed out loud in just 3 episodes. The scene where the ice skater gets cut in half.
Yeah, where Homelander laser beams her in half.
Yeah, and then the very next thing you see is some girl get her fingers chopped off by an ice skate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. Or Ryan pushing that dude into the building.
Yeah, killing him.
But just one thing after another, dude. Like, they're really upping the ante. I can't wait to see where it goes, because I think it's like they've gotten to the point, 4th season, where they can go every episode balls to the wall.
Yeah. I don't know. I think ending it in season 5 is good, because I the one thing I feel like after these first 3 episodes is that this show has kind of run its course. Every season is the same. You've got the boys trying to stop Homelander. Homelander is doing all this crazy shit, but people are believing him, and he's getting away with it. And then you got the 7 protecting him and Vought protecting him, and it's like, then now you get the shock and awe of what nasty, disgusting thing they're gonna do next. But the show is actually kind of losing its steam for me.
Yeah, now it's more about how can we shock people.
Now, I mean, I'm just watching it because I'm invested and I want to see how it ends, but it's not. It feels kind of repetitive to me, and I'm not.
Well, Eric Kripke, who is the showrunner for this, or creator or whatever, the guy that adapted it from the comic book, he also created Supernatural. And his original intention with Supernatural was to end after 3 or 4 seasons, and then he left. Right? It was supposed to end. It went on for 15 seasons. So it's very much in his history of his character to get shows and have like a definitive, like pretty, not a ton of seasons to have like an end date. Mm-hmm. I think that they plan on season 5 being the end since probably he started.
I don't know. I feel like
it can't be cancellation.
I don't feel like that's the case. No, it's not cancellation. I just think they're coming to the end of it. They're running out of material, and they're going to focus on Gen V, which is something that is not reliant on the comic book source material, so they can take that wherever they want. And I'm waiting to see how that plays into all this, because the first 3 episodes, like, of course, the after credit scene of Gen V, you've seen Butcher walk in and stuff, so that hasn't played out yet. But I mean, we still have a shit ton more episodes to go. We're only 3 episodes into the season, and I'm interested to see where that goes. But it's just, to me, it's kind of like the show is every season you lose a couple heroes, and the 7 die, and you replace them with the next martyrs that are going to die for the cause, and the one who's never going to die for the cause is Homelander, essentially.
Which it looks like he may just die from natural causes.
Yeah, because he's
That's
getting
kind
old.
of what he's getting.
He's got pubes in a jar. He's got great pubes in a jar.
See, but with your thing with them running out of material, that's never stopped any of the, like, Amazon. I know. In general.
Unfortunately, I'm aware.
Rings of Power is Lord of the Rings, and it's not derived from any prior works, right?
I don't ask me a damn thing about Lord of the Rings.
But I'm pretty sure that is a completely original thing. That I don't think it comes from anything. I want to say
there is some source material, but I don't know. I don't ask Max on that one. I want to say there is some source material for that, but
I think if they wanted it to continue, it's their leading show. I mean, no show is bigger than The Boys on Amazon Prime.
Well, then that's what I'm saying, is that Gen V they can go into Gen V and pay these actors a substantially less amount of money than what they're paying Carl Urban and all these guys.
Yeah, but I don't
to be
think
in the boys.
Gen V can pull the numbers that I really do think that the
I think
appeal
it
with
did.
the boys.
It did it last summer.
It pulled the boys' numbers.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because I would have thought that Homelander and Carl Urban were the draws to the boys, and Gen V doesn't have anybody like that.
It's just good storytelling, man.
But I like that they brought Simon Pegg back, by the way, even though he's just sitting in a coma.
Yeah.
Because that was always my issue. Because for our listeners, that if they don't know, the comic books, that Huey is based off of Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
The artist drew him to look like Simon Pegg. The dream was to have Simon Pegg play Huey. But by the time this show came out, Simon Pegg was too old, so they made him Huey's dad. But that's always been the dream. So when they didn't, I don't think he's been back in the last 2 seasons, right?
The dream. I can't remember.
I know he wasn't there last season, except for maybe phone calls or something like that. But he's been absent. I love that they brought him back. I don't know, man. It's I watched these because you had to remind me that they were out. I forgot. I've been so busy with work. And watching awesome movies like Hanky Panky. So I watched these kind of late, but I did feel like, and I saw that season 5 was going to be the last season after I'd watched these episodes. I saw it on Twitter. I didn't know that prior, but I definitely felt like they were gearing up towards some sort of on Twitter, on X or whatever the fuck they call it now.
I don't know it. I've never heard of Twitter before.
But so I saw it after I saw the episodes, but while I was watching the episodes, it felt like it was trying to reach a culmination of everything. Right. So I kind of felt like they were gearing up to try to wind this thing down. Rather than other seasons where it's like, oh, we're going to introduce this new character and then this is going to happen. And this season feels like it's gearing up for the conclusion.
Yes, I agree.
You start seeing things happening. You start seeing shit hit the fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you've got two characters that are in a race against time to die, like Butcher and Homelander. So it's like you're obviously coming to an end, but much like this show, much like this episode, coming to an end.
So when you brought up Gen V, the thing I was referring to was so the main actor, the guy, I forget what his power is.
The dude who can manipulate metal.
Is that what it is? He died, the actor.
Yes.
And he seemed to be pretty pivotal moving forward. What do you think they're going to do?
They have already said they are going to continue on with him in the show, and they are going to continue on with his character in some form. They are not going to recast, but they are going to very much.
So he's just going to be in the background?
I don't know if he's going to be in the background or if they're going to write him off, or if he's going to get taken out or something. But they said they don't plan on recasting, and they are going to continue on with the show and that role despite the accident.
How did he die?
In a motorcycle accident.
That's sad. He was a young kid too, right?
He was
early 20s, probably.
In his 29.
Sad.
No. Yeah. No. He was born in 1996.
Oh, he would have been 29. 28.
Yeah. 28, so
28 now. But yeah, man, I don't know, The Boys. So when I watch The Boys, so this is produced by Rogen, right? Seth Rogen.
Mm-hmm.
I watched The Boys, and man, I wish that Preacher could have gotten this kind of love that the boys got.
If only it wasn't on AMC.
Yeah, because Preacher was fucking awesome, dude. But it did not get the fanfare that the boys gets. And I don't know why. Because if you're a fan of the boys, you watch Preacher, right?
Yeah.
But AMC had Breaking Bad, right?
Right, but Breaking Bad is a different...
And Better Call Saul and...
different genre than Preacher. The source material for Preacher is more edgy and adult that they couldn't pull off on. They had to edit it and water it down so much for AMC.
Preacher could have been incredible.
Preacher was another one of those series though that after the second season, I felt like the show was floundering. So
yeah, and I don't remember it. All I know is that I liked it. I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Or Legion. Legion is another one of those shows that I don't feel got the love.
I didn't like Legion from the rip, so.
You didn't like Legion?
No, I didn't.
I thought it was really weird and interesting. I thought it was really weird and interesting. I liked it. But just because it was different. The Boys feels different. Preacher felt different. Because right now, whenever you get some sort of superhero thing, that's why I like Sandman so much. It's different, right? Yeah. You get these superhero things, they all feel like just the same rehashed shit over and over again. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air to see somebody taking a swing and making things different. You know, Sandman tried its very best to be different than everything else. And The Boys leans into, hey, we want an adult audience. This is an adult show. We're going to lean into it.
Boys is very much what would people do with superpowers, and they'd all be fucking degens. It's very much what it is. You think that just because someone gets superpowers, they're going to go fucking fight crime or be, you know,
they're flawed people.
Super villain. Yeah, they're flawed people who are fucking degens. Like, that's all it really is. They are absolute 100% fucking degens.
Which Marvel has always operated under. These people are flawed, but not degenerates, right? Like, that's what I've always liked about Marvel, is that all of those characters have flaws in some capacity, but nothing that makes them just deplorable.
Right.
Like The Boys. Unless you're the gorgeous Erin Moriarty, Starlight. She seems to be the only one with kind of like a North Star.
Who
likes to smoke weed and drink alcohol.
Yeah, but
I don't know. Are you excited for more episodes?
God damn it, Lance. Yes, I'm excited for more episodes of The Boys.
I think that's where you were going, wasn't it?
No, I was going to say, I think this is where we end the show with a great discussion on Star Wars, X-Men, and The Boys. Continue this next week when we get more episodes of Star Wars and The Boys. And House of Dragon. I'm so excited House of Dragon's back.
Yeah, you can keep that one.
Cannot wait to watch that. So good. My wife's even into it.
Not a Game of Thrones fan in the least.
If this is your first time finding us, welcome. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification so you know whenever we upload. Make sure to check out our interview, like I said earlier, with Nick Roth from Hanky Panky. Make sure to check out Hanky Panky on all of your streaming services and free as of today, which is 6/14 on Tubi. So go see where they put those commercials out on Tubi. And again, check out that interview. And
yeah, he kind of let it dish in that interview that it was coming on Tubi, and I think he realized I don't think I was supposed to say that yet.
I don't know.
Did you see that? He's like, oh, I got to tell somebody that I just said this.
Yeah. But
no, even if you have not seen the movie or heard of the movie, it's definitely worth going to watch. But watching the interview, just because Nick is a cool dude. Like, yeah. I emailed him after the show kind of thanking him like for coming on and how great of a discussion it was. And sent him a link to that music video that I sent you, Matt, and he watched it and he commented on it. He's like, this is fantastic. And just a cool dude. Like, how many people that are in that industry that just seem like cool dudes. Like we had a really good discussion. So go check out that interview.
Yeah. And for this week's episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast, I'm Matt.
I'm Lance.
And we will see you guys next time. Hopefully that's next week.
Yes,
but
it
at
will
this
be
point,
next week.
I'm tired of saying it. So, no promises.
We'll see you guys soon.
Just leave it at that. All right. And on that note, Max, Travis, and the boys, take us home.
All you freaks and geeks,
come all you freaks and geeks. Let's listen to Absolute Geek.
Absolute.
We'll go ahead and spread our cheeks.
Spread the cheeks.
And drink
Spread
Spread the cheeks like you're watching The Boys.
we'll
Come
drink
on,
some
you
Cosby wine.
Sure
It
you don't get
makes
pink
me
eye.
feel real fine. See you next time.